Fantastic. Thank you so much. Welcome, everybody, to the September 10th, 2025 Nursing Education and Workforce Advisory Committee, or also known as NEWAC. Mark, I see there's some background noise. I'm just not sure where it's coming from. Okay, great. Perfect. Welcome, everyone. My name is Garrett Chan. I'm the chair of NEWAC, and I'm happy to be here. We're going to do a call to order and a roll call. So I will go ahead and read down the list of attendees to do a roll call. So Garrett Chan is present. Janine Graves?
Present.
Thanks, Janine. Dr. Tanya Altman?
Present.
Thank you, Dr. Altman. Dr. Tammy Vethol?
Present.
Thank you, Dr. Vethol. Anthony Cordova?
I think we have somebody that is filling in for Anthony Cordova. Can't remember the name. Let me find it for you. Hold on.
Sure.
Macaulay, are you able to respond?
It's supposed to be Sherry Borton, but she's not here.
She's not here yet. Okay.
No.
Okay, great. Thank you. Wendy Hansbrough. Dr. Hansbrough.
Good morning, everyone. I'm here.
Thank you, Dr. Hansbrough. Dr. Saji de Guzman.
Present.
Thank you, Dr. de Guzman. Miss Alice Benjamin.
Not yet.
Okay, thank you.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm here.
wait a minute. Are you here?
Yeah, I'm right here. Alice Benjamin.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. Oh, there she is. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I scrolled up. Wrong way.
Thanks.
Alice is here. My bad.
Awesome. Thank you, Ms. Benjamin. Welcome. Dr. Hazel Torres.
I am here.
Thank you, Dr. Torres. Judy Cornell. No, Judy.
She's here, but she's not here.
I'm here. Sorry.
There she is. There she is.
Great,
I'm
thanks.
here, and I'm having
Excellent.
some camera trouble, so I probably won't come on camera. I'm still working on that, though. Maybe halfway through I can get it.
Awesome. Thank you, Judy. Miss Kathy Hughes.
Kathy Hughes here.
Thank you, Ms. Hughes. Dr. Jacqueline Bowman. Let's see. I don't
No.
see. No.
I don't see.
Okay, great. Miss Carmen Comsty.
Present. Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you, Carmen. Chris Perry?
No.
No, thank you. Dr. Joanne Spetz? I see Dr. Spetz.
All right, the microphone finally connected. Hello.
Hello. Thanks, Joanne. And Miss Sandra Miller.
Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Miller. All right, great. We definitely have a quorum. So we can go ahead and move on to agenda item 2.0, please. 2.0 is general instructions for the format of a teleconference meeting. So I'm going to hand it over to the BRN moderator.
Good morning. This is the BRN moderator. I will be moderating the meeting. To facilitate public comment, we will be utilizing the WebEx question and answer feature, which is now known as Slido. When the committee reaches a point in the agenda at which public comment is appropriate, the question and answer feature will be turned on, and members of the public can indicate that they would like to make a comment by inserting the phrase, "I would like to make a comment," in the question box, which is typically in the lower right of your screen. We will also query our in-person location in BRN HQ, which right now has no attendees. I will then call on the individual and unmute their microphone. The individual will have 2 minutes to make their comments. I will not give a warning as your time approaches. I will mute your microphone and will announce that your time has exceeded the time allotted. I will then proceed to the next member of the public who has a comment. Please note that the question and answer feature is being used only as a means for members of the public to represent that they would like to make a verbal comment. When your turn comes, you will be prompted to unmute. If your question can be answered, the committee will respond accordingly. When making your comments, speak about anything you believe is important for the members to know. Remember, committee members cannot address any item not on the agenda, items not on the agenda at that moment, items that you would like to add to a future meeting, or items that will be discussed later on the agenda will be discussed at their correct times during the meeting. I'll provide a brief reminder of this approach at the start of each public comment item. Finally, when committee members or BRN staff are not speaking, I would like to remind them to mute their microphone. If I detect background noise during the meeting as a result of unmuted microphones, I will mute your microphone automatically.
Fantastic. Thank you, BRN moderator. We're going to move to agenda item 3.0, which is public comments for items not on the agenda for future agendas. And this is an opportunity for the public to share with NEWAC anything that is not on the agenda that you may want to see on a future meeting agenda. Just as a note, and this note also shows up in the agenda that has been published on the BRN website, according to several of the government code sections, the committee may not discuss or act on any matter raised during the public comment section that is not included on this agenda, except to decide whether to place the matter on the agenda for a future meeting. So we welcome people to unmute yourself if you would like to share something that we should consider at a future NEWAC meeting. And so I'm going to turn it over to the BRN moderator to start that process so that we hear from the public.
We will be opening for public comment now. Please refer to the screen share for members of the public to see how they should type in their request for comment. I've activated the question and answer feature, which is now known as Slido. Members of the public can indicate that they would like to make a comment by typing into the question box, "I would like to make a comment." Please remember you will have 2 minutes to make your comments. I will not give a reminder as your time approaches. I do not want to interrupt you nor cause you to lose your train of thought. I will mute your microphone and inform you that your time has expired, and we'll move on to the next member of the public. I'll pause for a moment for members of the public to type in, "I would like to make a comment." Committee Chair Chan, there are no public requests for comments on the WebEx or Slido. We have no in-person representation in BRNHQ, and Sherry has joined us. Would you like me to close this window?
Yes, thank you so much, BRN moderator.
Oh, wait a minute. Somebody jumped in real quick.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Please, no.
Yep,
Absolutely.
we're there. Hey, fast. Good job. James Rockoff would like to make a comment. 1 second, please.
See, can I start now?
Yes,
Yes.
sir. Go ahead.
Okay. This is from James Rockoff, Oceanside, California. You will all receive an email regarding the following today. So you've received a similar email about a week ago. With the goal of removing a bad course from the accredited list of continuing education, I took Certificate in Energy Medicine. It is a 10-hour online course offered online from authors Allegra Learning Solutions. Many state colleges and community colleges offer it also. Allegra is an accredited provider on the American Nurses Association list for California. Apparently, the BRN accepts the accreditation decisions of the American Nurses Association. The course has some facts, but teaches that you have a seven-layer aura, each layer a different color, each layer attached to a different chakra, each chakra related to specific organs and mental states. Further, that Reiki, or Reiki, depending on how you pronounce it, and foot reflexology have healing benefits beyond relaxation. Nurses taking this course will waste most of their time. Further, any convinced by the accreditation may feel morally bound to share useless remedies with suffering patients. Written complaint to the American Nurses Association failed to remove accreditation. The Enforcement Committee is informed, but online it says they may take years to act. Please see action is taken. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment, Mr. Rockoff.
Thank you. And just for the public to know, we did receive emails from this gentleman and we have started to look into that process.
Thank you, EMLP.
Thank you. Crystal Alexander would like to make a comment. 1 second, please.
Thank you
Chris-
for taking my comment. My name is Crystal Alexander, and I am an out-of-state accelerated BSN student. I'm attending a state university with a very well-reputed program. I'm seeking clarification around the pediatrics requirements, and just to let you know my situation, my intent is to license in California. In the program that I'm in, we are provided with a number of clinical hours that exceed California requirements. Our pediatric clinical time, however, follows the theory. And so the school is accommodating me specifically to allow me to participate in my clinical hours during the same time period concurrent to my theory. But it's causing confusion, I believe, for a lot of students and hesitancy to attend the school because people are unclear about whether or not it will meet California requirements. So any clarity around what is intended or meant by concurrent or whether or not it would be acceptable to have clinical hours follow the theory would be appreciated. And that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. We won't be able to address that right here in this public comment, but I'll make sure to elaborate on that when we get to the agenda item that addresses pediatric curriculum.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Alexander, for your comment.
Thank you. Okay, now we are clear. Would you like me to close this window, please?
Yes, thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
No problem. And we appreciate the public comments as always. We're going to move to agenda item 4.0, which is review and vote on whether to approve previous meetings minutes from the March 5th, 2025 and the June 25th, 2025 meeting. So I'm going to open it up for discussion from the committee members, please, first. Any corrections or anything that you'd like to see changed from the committee?
If there are no changes, you guys could make a motion to accept the minutes as written with the ability for board staff to make any non-substantial changes like spelling errors and name spellings, etc.
Thanks.
Tanya Altman, this is Tanya Altman. I'll move approval with minor edits by the board staff for non-substantive changes.
Thank you.
I'll second. This is Carmen.
Thank you, Carmen. Thank you, Tanya. So we are now going to open it up to public comment.
We will be opening for public comment now. Please refer to the screen share for members of the public to see how they should type in their request for comment. I've activated the question and answer feature, Slido. Members of the public can indicate that they would like to make a comment by typing into the question box, "I would like to make a comment." Please remember you will have 2 minutes to make your comments. I will not give a reminder as your time approaches. I do not want to interrupt you nor cause you to lose your train of thought. I will mute your microphone and inform you that your time has expired, and we'll move on to the next member of the public. I'll pause for a moment for members of the public to type in, I would like to make a comment. Committee Chair Chan, there are no public requests for comments on the WebEx. We have no in-person representation in BRN HQ. Would you like me to close this window?
Yes, you're a moderator. Thank you. Okay. So now we're going to move to a vote, and I'll do a call for your vote. So before we do that, I just want to welcome Cherie Fortin, who is the representative from the California Community College Chancellor's Office. And Cherie and I actually had the first time to meet each other at a different call this week on Monday. So Cherie, thank you so much for being here. Welcome to NEWAC, and we look forward to your engagement. And if there's any questions, feel free to let us know. Okay, so the motion is to accept the March 5th, 2025 and the June 25th, 2025 meeting minutes with minor editorial changes by the BRN staff. And so I, as the chair, Garrett Chan, votes yes. Janine Graves?
Yes.
Thank you, Janine. Tanya Altman?
Yes.
Thank you, Tanya. Tammy Vettel?
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Vettel. Cherie Fortin?
Yes.
Thank you. Dr. Wendy Hansborough?
Yes.
Thank you, Wendy. Dr. Saji de Guzman?
I vote yes.
Thank you, Saji. Miss Alice Benjamin? Alice, can you hear us?
It's showing that you're still muted, Alice. Are you able to come off mute?
I can see you're trying very hard. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm going to come back to you, Alice. Okay, excellent. Thank you. Dr. Hazel Torres?
Yes.
Thank you, Hazel. Judy Cornell?
Yes.
Thank you, Judy. Ms. Kathy Hughes?
Yes.
Thank you, Kathy. Dr. Jacqueline Bowman? Let's see, is Jacqueline here? No, I don't see her. Okay, Ms. Carmen Komsky?
Yes.
Thank you, Carmen. Chris Perry? I don't think I see Chris here. Okay. Dr. Joan Spetz?
Here, yes.
Thanks, Joan.
Voting yes.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. And Ms. Sandra Miller?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. The motion passes. Oh, Alice, are you able to come off mute?
She's off camera now at this point, too, so we can just put her through as abstained.
Okay.
We do still have quorum, so we're able to move forward without waiting, and we'll allow her to work through her technical issues. But we do still have quorum, so please continue.
Thank you, Lori. Okay, excellent. We're going to move to the next agenda item, which is 5.0 for discussion and possible action. This is regarding the meeting dates for 2026. So I'm going to ask the committee members to pull out your calendars. We do have to set the dates for 2026.
Hey, Garrett?
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Was the motion that just passed, was that only for March 5th? And did you do the minutes for June 25th?
In the motion, it was for both dates.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Always feel free to keep me on my toes. Moving forward, so 5.0 is discussion and possible action regarding the meeting dates for 2026. As people may recall, that we meet formally twice a year, once in the spring and once in the fall. And we have the opportunity to add additional meetings should we need it, like we did this year. And I want to thank the NEWAC committee members for joining us in the summer meeting in June. We have the recommended dates for NEWAC. You will see here that January 21st, 2026 is the first recommended meeting. And then July 22nd would be, I guess, more mid-year for NEWAC. As you can see, and I'm very thankful to the board staff for putting together the agenda. It's very busy for the board, and so we try to accommodate, meeting at times that we can get their full attention. And so I wanted to open it up for discussion from the committee members for January 21st, 2026 and July 22nd, 2026 as the two dates for NEWAC meeting next year. Let me just double check to see what days of the week those are.
Looking at that, Garrett, one thing I do want to point out that currently the provisions that allow for this advisory committee to meet remotely, it does sunset January 1. There is a bill, SB 470. It's a Bagley-Keene Open Meeting Act regarding teleconferencing that has been voted and has passed through all of the appropriate committees, but it's awaiting signature by the governor. If that does not get signed by the governor, we will be meeting in person next year for these two dates. So have that in mind as you're looking at those dates as a possibility. We will know more in about a month's time. Once this legislative session closes, the governor has about 30 days to sign everything. So it looks promising, but I do want to be completely transparent that if SB 470 does not get signed by the governor, we will be in person for all of our advisory committees starting January 1. I'm hopeful. I don't believe that will happen, but I did want to put that out there.
Great, thanks, Lori. I really appreciate that additional information. So we should plan on being in person in Sacramento, January 21st and July 22nd, unless if SB 470 gets signed by the governor. And Lori, can you, when the board staff hears about the fate of Senate Bill 470, will you be able to send an email out to the NEWAC committee members?
I mean, you might be able to hear the rumbling of the cheering of all my board staff and myself. But yes, you will actually, all of our advisory committees will receive an email. We will try to make it legible, but it'll be a lot of clapping and emojis.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Lori. It looks like January 21st and also July 22nd are on a Wednesday.
I'm just going to note that the week of July 22nd, I'm 98% sure I cannot attend because of a pre-existing commitment associated with a federally funded grant. So, and in general, I think July, I'm just going to propose that July, August period, I mean, there may be other people who don't know what their summer vacation plans are yet, but could be challenging. But I know I'm out of the picture. I don't get to take a vacation that week.
And I won't be able to attend that week either.
And for Sac State, the last 2 weeks of January are the faculty back in first week of classes, and I won't be able to attend. Wendy's probably in the same boat.
Okay. We'll start with January. Would moving it forward a week be helpful, or is that going to cause further because you're in prep for that? If you're able to look at page 29 of the materials, we do have a committee or board meeting every single month of the year. There is not a month that we don't, and it is a lot of staff work to get everything up and prepared and reviewed and in person, and we have to book these rooms well in advance. So if we could accommodate it in January and July, that would be the best bet for our board staff. Obviously, nothing happens unless you were able to get a quorum and you guys could show up. So if there is something, if you want to start in January, we'll take those dates first and see if there is anything in January that you guys might be able to propose that could work. If not, we potentially could look at the first week of February, if that's better. But anything kind of pushing it past that starts to impede on the other committee meetings that are having to be scheduled and manned and et cetera. So I'll shush and let you guys go ahead and see if there are dates in January that would work for you guys.
For our system, January 21st and 28th works just fine.
I could manage January 14th or February 4th.
February 4th would not work well for me, but the 14th and 21st are both equally good for me.
I have another conference on February 4th, so I cannot do that. The 14th is fine.
So it looks like January 14th is kind of coming out as the forerunner of a potential date. Are you guys able to take a look at that and see if that works for everybody?
Lori, this is Garrett. I'm sorry. I will not be able to do the January 14th if it is in person. If it is distance, I can do it. It's the day before our conference, Educating Nurses: A Call for Radical Transformation, which is on the 15th and 16th. But if it's via video, I'm absolutely happy to do it.
I will not be able to do January 14th for a conflicting advisory committee meeting.
So let's go back to the January 21st date. So on the January 21st date, is that date or is that week out? Because we could move it to a different day of the week, looking at January 21st.
For me,
I'm
it's
actually okay with January 21st and July 22.
So I believe there was 2 people that mentioned that there might be conflicts with the January 21st. Is that accurate?
Lori,
Yes,
mine is the
probably.
whole week.
Because the Cal State system,
It's the entire week, Wendy.
so our faculty pre-instruction activities, which I'm sure Tanya, like me, has just swamped that's the week of January 15th.
Okay, so and I know that you guys had mentioned that how many of you guys would be starting back, so the January 21st date was not.
January 21st works okay for me. It's just, you know how it is. I kind of hate to be in my office for a 3-hour meeting on the first day students are on campus, and,
Would the
things
20th
fall apart.
Would the 20th work best, the day before the first day of students on campus, or would the 22nd work better? The 19th is Martin Luther King Day, so Monday won't, but if there is a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday that works better, we could consider that.
Later in that week, I think later in that week works okay for me. I don't know what Tanya feels.
We actually start back a week later, Wendy, so that is my faculty back week.
Oh, gosh.
The Tuesday is the only day I could tentatively do.
Okay.
Which would be the 20th. Is that
correct?
Accurate?
Yeah.
We have an
I
executive.
cannot do any day that week.
And what were you saying? I'm sorry, Sherry.
I was going to say our system has an executive team working retreat that on the 20th, so I cannot attend on the 20th.
Okay, so I hate to even say this, but we do only have to have quorum. So if the majority can make the 21st, and we only have ones and twos, if you guys have something that is of big importance, you can reach out to your chair and we can make sure to have that covered. But if it looks like to me that the 21st works for the majority, and since January is tight as it is, and I do want to make sure that you guys are not tied to this. If the 21st works for the majority, we might still have to stick with the 21st. Okay, so then let's work with the 22nd of July. Joanne, I believe you were the one that had conflict with the 22nd of July. Is that accurate?
Yes, guaranteed conflict for me.
Guaranteed conflict, okay. And is there anybody else that has conflict with July 22nd?
I do.
Okay, Ray, you do as well.
I do.
Okay. And Judy, you do also?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll do the same process for July. Is there the week before, the week after that would work best in July? So we can kind of stick with Wednesday seems to be the better one. So if we can look at the week before would be the 15th, or the week afterwards would be the 29th. If any of those would work, would that be something you guys consider?
Either would work for me.
Either the 15th or the 29th?
Yes.
Is there a preference from the committee regarding the 15th or the 29th of July?
This is Hazel. I prefer the 29th.
Okay.
I'm fine with either.
Okay, would July 29th work for the majority of the committee? Okay, so it looks like we're sticking with January 21st as the date because the majority can make it, and we're moving the proposed date from July 22nd to July 29th. If that is something that the committee is willing to accept, we would need a motion and a second.
I'll make a motion to have the next NEWAC meeting on January 21st, 2026, and then an additional meeting on July 27th. What did we say?
29.
29th, 2026.
Second the motion.
Thank you, Saji. Garrett, you want to take us out to public comment, please?
Sure. Mark, please open that for public comment.
We will be opening for public comment now. Please refer to the screen share for members of the public to see how they should type in their request for a comment. I've activated the question and answer feature. Members of the public can indicate that they would like to make a comment by typing into the question box, "I would like to make a comment." Please remember you will have 2 minutes to make your comments. I will not give a reminder as your time approaches. I do not want to interrupt you nor cause you to lose your train of thought. I will mute your microphone and inform you that your time has expired, and we'll move on to the next member of the public. I'll pause for a moment for members of the public to type in, "I would like to make a comment." Committee Chair Chan, there are no public requests for comments on the WebEx. We have no in-person representation in BRN HQ. Would you like me to close this window?
Yes, thank you, BRN moderator. Okay, so we're going to do a vote for the dates of January 21st, 2026 and the 29th, July 29th, 2026. Garrett Chan, yes. Janine Graves?
Yes.
Thank you, Janine. Dr. Tanya Altman?
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Altman. Dr. Tammy Bentel?
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Van Hol. Cherie Fortin.
Yes.
Thank you, Cherie. Dr. Wendy Hansborough.
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Hansborough. Dr. Saji de Guzman.
I vote yes.
Thank you, Saji. Miss Alice Benjamin.
Yes.
Great, thanks, Alice. Dr. Hazel Torres.
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Torres. Judy Cornell.
Yes.
Thank you, Judy. Miss Kathy Hughes.
Yes.
Thank you, Kathy. Dr. Jacqueline Bowman. I don't think is with us today. Ms. Carmen Comsty.
Yes.
Thank you, Carmen. Chris Perry is not with us. And Dr. Joanne Spetz.
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Spetz. And Ms. Sandra Miller.
Yes.
Thank you, Sandra. Okay, the motion carries and we have our 2 dates. Excellent.
I'm going to jump in really, really quick and do some housekeeping here.
Okay.
On my computer, which I'm not sure if it's with everybody, but I have Carmen, Janine, Hazel, as not showing up as on camera. Are you guys, okay, are you guys all on camera, or is it just my computer that's showing them they're not on camera? Judy Cornell's not on camera.
Yeah, my camera isn't working yet, so I'm hoping to have it repaired by the next hour.
Okay, I'm gonna pause this for a minute and confer with our legal counsel. Anne, I know that in order for us to count a member in attendance, they have to be on camera. Unless there's some technical issues, and that is announced. Is the announcement of her working on her camera right now and hoping that restored in about an hour, acceptable for us to continue counting her towards?
Yes, and I recall that when Chair Chan did the roll call, Member Cornell also indicated that she was having trouble with her camera, so we're all good.
Okay, good. And because I was not here and I was late due to my own technical issues, I missed that completely and just noticed that. So thank you.
No, I appreciate you checking in on that.
Thank you. And then Garrett, the next agenda item I will have to take because for 5 seconds, potentially, you will not be chair.
Yes.
Vice chair. So just,
may I just do the introduction and then hand it over to you?
yes, please.
Okay. So we're moving on to agenda item 6.0, which is regarding the election of a chair and vice chair. And so just to let everybody know, both Janine and my appointments will expire May 31st of next year. So my last meeting as chair will be this one going around, and then I will attend the January meeting as a member of NEWAC, but not as chair. And Janine has graciously agreed to serve as vice chair for both this one and next one. And we're doing that for a transition of the chair position. So we will be electing both the chair and the vice chair positions moving forward, but this will be my last meeting as chair. This will be Janine's second to last, and then she will be vice chair next meeting on January 21st, 2026, and I will be just a member. So I'm going to turn it over to Lori.
Okay, just
take it away.
a bit of clarification. Janine could be chair if she is reappointed during this agenda item. She could continue to serve as vice chair today and vice chair in January. If she is not reappointed, she will not be able to continue in that role. What we have done with all of our advisory committee as well as our board is we elect a chair and a vice chair on an annual basis. They are eligible for re-election. Garrett is eligible for re-election and could continue to serve as chair today, as well as chair in January, with a 2-month break of having no chair. There is no meeting. So in the July meeting, we would have as the first agenda item the election of chair and vice chair, and I would open up the meeting and run it. So, and that could happen as well with Janine Graves, if she was appointed as chair or vice chair today. We do have several members of our NEWAC committee that are terming out next year. Sandra Miller will be terming out on May 31st, 2026, as well as Tanya Altman, Janine Graves, and Jarrett Chan. So those 4 people, if the committee chose to have one of them as chair or vice chair, that is acceptable. They would assume that role today. They would then be in that role for January's meeting. And then the July meeting, when those 4 people would no longer be part of NEWAC, we would then at that point elect, as we already are planning to do an election because it is an annual election, we would then elect a person to then take over the next role. As you did hear though, Garrett has suggested that he not be nominated for the chair position, as he would like to serve in more of a supportive mentoring position for the new chair to allow for some support and transition, and that is absolutely acceptable. However, Janine has also, through Garrett, mentioned that she is interested in continuing as vice chair at least through January. So if there is a nomination, which she could self-nominate, to do that and a vote is put forward, she is absolutely able to continue in either the chair or the vice chair positions. So at this point, just based on that clarification, we will start the discussion of chair for NEWAC committee that would start today in their role. And so at that point, if there's anybody that would like to nominate somebody to be chair of NEWAC, or someone would like to nominate themselves to be chair of NEWAC, this would be the time to put that nomination forward.
Lori, I'm sorry, can I ask you a quick question? So,
yes.
And Alice, I see your hand up. If I may just ask this question really quickly. For me, if it's okay with the committee, I'd like to finish today as being the chair, only because we've been processing everything. And so the chair position would start, at the end of this. Is it possible to start at the end of this meeting?
I think we can make that motion to do that. That's not something we've done in the past. In the past, in all of our committees, including our board committees and board meeting, if a member is voted in, they start immediately because that old member is voted out. Garrett, you could, even if you were not to continue as chair today, you could be running this committee. You just would not be the chair. So we would have a new vote for a chair, but we could have that chair ask you to manage the committee if that's the concern for today, and you would do that as a delegated, kind of role to wrap up today's meeting, if that's something that you're concerned with, or if that's what you're asked with.
Yeah, I think it's because I've prepared for today, and so I would prefer to finish this meeting as the chair and then allow the next chair to start at the conclusion of this meeting.
Definitely.
Okay.
That is something that can be put out there for consideration. So it will have the conversation with.
I think Alice had her hand up.
Yeah.
Alice. Hi. I was just kind of questioning if there was a document that spoke to the roles and responsibilities or time commitment of the chair role that we can refer to.
It depends on who it is. Alice, I'd have you kind of checking in daily. No, I'm joking. We have a charter. I know that you are new to this committee. if we have not sent you the charter, I'd be happy to send that to you. What the chair does with the board, which is of course different than what they do maybe in their own subcommittees, but as being the chair of this advisory committee, is they meet with us to set the agenda. So that is typically an hour long, can run longer than that, about a month before the meeting. They do just kind of a reach out to get that scheduled. Once the agenda is set, they do also assist with the preparation of the materials if there is something that they are specifically requesting. We do have a liaison for all of our advisory committees. Currently, that is Macaulay Fusarens, our chief of licensing. And she does assist with the agenda and the materials. And so that is a collaboration. That is not a sole responsibility for the person that becomes chair and vice chair. Other than that, there is nothing truly additional that you do with our board unless there is something that needs to be presented to our board. So if we go through this committee and this committee makes a motion to present an item to our board for consideration, many times it is the chair or vice chair that will then attend the board meeting and do that presentation. The good thing is that you would not be going in as a person counted towards quorum of a board meeting. So that is 100% remote. Whether we would have to go back in person or not, that is something that you could attend remotely because we are not altering the virtual component for people to attend our meetings, whether Bagley Keene passes or not, the update. So it's not extensive, but it does require an hour or so of your time in advance of each of our meetings to be able to coordinate and meet with Macaulay, myself, and our legal counsel to set an agenda and work on materials if needed.
And a vice chair, I imagine, is a supportive role to that, and then steps in should the chair not be available. Okay, kind of like a president-elect in a sense. Okay.
Yes, very, very much. Yep.
Alice, it's a great question, and if I could, everything that Lori said, I completely agree with. I think one of the other things that I, as the chair of NEWAC, have done is to make sure that kind of the information from one meeting to the next kind of gets preserved and moves forward. We started creating subcommittees, and so it was important for the subcommittees to understand, their work, and so I helped during public meetings kind of just reiterate what was discussed before. So having an in-depth recollection of the past minutes of what was discussed and what was agreed upon to help give some potential guidance to the various members on NEWAC has been a role that I have also played. That is definitely not in the charter. It's just something that I would just kind of encourage the next chair to make sure that things run smoothly and that all of the NEWAC members feel supported in the work that they're doing. So again, it's just more editorial comment as opposed to anything legal. Everything that Lori said is absolutely true. And the next chair can do whatever they want to do, however they want to do it too, right?
And not to belabor the point, but the term for your position, Garrett, is a year or 2 years?
1 year.
Oh, 1 year.
1 year, and you could re-elect as many times as the committee chooses to re-elect you. So, Alice, right now, if you wanted to self-elect for somebody, you're not termed out until March 2027. And I believe you would actually kind of re-up, because I think you could, off the top of my head, I think you can go 2 cycles, right?
Right.
So with that, you would then extend for another 2 years. So your term, if you choose to stay on NEWAC, could extend through March 31st, 2029. If that occurs and you were to serve in a chair or a vice chair position, each year your committee could re-elect you into that position and you could serve as chair or vice chair for the entirety of that time. But it does require a re-election into that on an annual basis for the duration of the term that you are choosing to serve within NEWAC.
Well, to be very clear, I believe that there's probably some very experienced candidates who've been on the committee a lot longer who would serve in that chair role. But if I understand there's competing priorities, I would be interested in a vice chair role as a very junior, new to the committee. But yeah, I know there's someone more qualified for the chair position right now. They're just afraid to raise their hand right now.
Not a problem. So we are asking for any kind of nomination or a self-nomination for chair at this point.
Hi, I would like to nominate Janine Graves for chair.
Okay. Janine, is that something that you would consider to move to chair for January's committee?
Only if I could be bonded with Garrett Chan at my side.
That would have to be an unofficial bonding with Garrett Chan at your side.
Like a conjoined twin, Lori. Like a conjoined twin.
Do you mean mentor?
Yes.
I do mean mentor.
I think that's that's gonna be Garrett's decision.
He has offered that support. So I think Janine, that's something that could occur. Is there any other nominations other than Janine for chair? Okay, Janine, I think you're going to be stuck in that one. Okay. So Janine is our only nomination and she is willing to accept that as long as Garrett chooses to mentor her, which he has graciously offered that. So we will go on. Is there anybody that is interested in the vice chair? We do have a self-nomination for Alice Benjamin. Is there anybody else that would be willing to nominate or self-nominate for vice chair?
I would like to nominate Dr. Sajay de Guzman. I've worked with Sajay on our subcommittees, and he is just a beacon of light in nursing, and I think he would be fantastic.
Okay, so it looks like we have two nominations for vice chair, Sajay and Alice.
Yes, but let me say this. He's been on the committee a lot longer than I have, so I would actually defer to him for the nomination. I'm just new blood to the team, just eager to learn and participate. But it sounds like he's definitely been on the committee a lot longer, and I believe that with that experience, he's probably better suited for the role.
Okay, so are you
withdrawing
your
Yes.
nomination? Okay.
Yes, because
not a
yes.
problem.
Right.
Okay. So is there any other nominations for vice chair?
Oh, just one quick point of clarification. I don't think member de Guzman accepted or accepted the nomination.
Oh,
okay. Sorry. Sajay, is that something that you would be willing to do?
I am happy to do it with Janine Graves. Thank you. Thank you for the nomination. And I accept it.
Okay, and then Sajay, just so you know, Janine will not be there at the July meeting. She does term out, which means you would be serving as the chair for the July meeting without Janine present until a new appointment is made.
Accepted.
Okay, good, because I know you put that caveat on there. I wanted to make perfectly clear for that.
I see all the dates, so it's good for me. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. So we do have a nomination for and an acceptance for Janine Graves as chair and Sajay de Guzman as vice chair for the NEWAC committee for this upcoming year. If that is something that the committee wishes to continue with, we will need a motion to accept and a second.
I actually would like to make an amendment to the motion. So I would like to move that Janine Graves and Saji de Guzman are chair and vice chair upon conclusion of this meeting.
I second that.
I guess what I'll do is I'll go to public comment.
Thank you.
We will be opening for public comment now. Please refer to the screen share for members of the public to see how they should type in their request for comment. I've activated the question and answer feature, Slido. Members of the public can indicate that they would like to make a comment by typing into the question box, "I would like to make a comment." Please remember you will have 2 minutes to make your comments. I will not give a reminder as your time approaches. I do not want to interrupt you nor cause you to lose your train of thought. I will mute your microphone and inform you that your time has expired, and we'll move on to the next member of the public. I'll pause for a moment for members of the public to type in, "I would like to make a comment." Okay, now I forget with all that talk. Is Garrett still committee chair, or am I going to
Garrett's
you?
going to continue in the chair position for the
Okay.
remainder of this committee. Yes.
I just remember hearing
Continue
for
right
a
with
second
that.
here, you are not going to be. Okay, I'm sorry. Committee Chair Chan, there are no public requests for comments on the WebEx. We have no in-person requests for comments in BRN HQ. Would you like me to close this window?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to go to let me ask, is there any other discussion? Okay, hearing none, I'll call for the vote. So Garrett Chan votes yes. Janine Graves?
Yes.
Thank you, Janine. Tanya Altman?
Yes.
Thank you, Tanya. Tammy Ventel?
Yes.
Thank you, Tammy. Cherie Horton?
Yes.
Thank you, Cherie. Wendy Hansbrough?
Yes.
Thank you, Wendy. Saji de Guzman?
I vote yes.
Thank you, Saji. Alice Benjamin?
Yes.
Thank you, Alice. Hazel Torres?
Yes.
Thank you, Hazel. Judy Cornell?
Yes.
Thanks, Judy. Kathy Hughes?
Yes.
Thank you, Kathy. Jacqueline Bowman? I don't think she's still with us. No, I don't see her. Carmen Comsty?
Yes.
Thanks, Carmen. Chris Perry is not with us. Joanne Spetz?
Yes.
Thank you, Joanne. And Sandra Miller?
Unmute, yes, sorry.
Thanks, Sandra. Excellent. Well, congratulations, Janine and to Saji, for your new positions as chair and vice chair, starting at the end of this meeting. Super glad to hand it over to Janine, who has been an amazing vice chair and who will be an amazing chair. And on a point of personal privilege, I want to thank everyone on NEWAC for being amazing committee members. It's been just a real pleasure to be the chair of this fantastic group and in the formative years. So I look forward to all the fantastic things that are going to happen moving forward. So with that, we're going to move to agenda item number 7.0, which is discussion and possible action. And this is regarding assigning replacement member to the Clinical Placement and Action Subcommittee. So this agenda item was brought up in the June meeting. Thank you, Joanne, Dr. Spetz, for your service on the Clinical Placement and Impaction Subcommittee. Due to professional obligations, Dr. Spetz needed to step down, and I have offered to step into the Clinical Placement and Impaction Subcommittee for the duration of my time with NEWAC until May 31st, 2026. We had discussion in the last meeting, but we did not have a quorum, so we couldn't vote it in. So now I'm going to open it up for discussion for me to replace Dr. Spetz until the end of my appointment, which is again May 31st, 2026, on the Clinical Placement and Impaction Subcommittee. I'm going to open it up for discussion among the NEWAC committee members.
Oh, Garrett, I think you might need a second.
Oh, do I need a second? Okay, I guess that's the motion, so I need a second.
I second.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Anne. All right, I'm gonna open it up for discussion, please. I don't see any hands, and my screen is super small. I'm on my laptop, so I don't think there's anybody who's raised their hand. So feel free to shout out. At any time, feel free to shout out because I am definitely not offended by that.
Garrett, sorry, the raise hand feature is not working, I guess.
Oh, I see.
It's one of those things. But I just wanted to clarify, are you able to stay on the committee after May 2026?
No, so what will happen is that there will need to be a new committee member assigned to the subcommittee. So currently it's Judy Cornell, and it would be Judy and I who would serve until the end of my term, and then there will be a new replacement. This is work that I'm already doing work in, and so I feel like in the amount of time that I have left on NEWAC and the Clinical Placement and Impaction Subcommittee, I can give a lot of information and then also connect with my network of individuals throughout the clinical placement consortia throughout California to get this subcommittee kind of on good standing. And so for further work that may or may not need to be done. Just as a reminder, this is an important subcommittee because it was actually mandated by a Senate Bill 1015. Senator Cortese introduced the bill and it was signed into law. And so NEWAC is required to do this work. And so given that I have come off of the subcommittee on simulation, I have no competing issues, and so I'm allowed to go ahead and step in. Does that help, Hazel?
Yes, very. Thank you.
Again, I don't see anybody. Oh, sorry, Alice. I see you now.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I have a question because I'm reading I guess these are the materials here. So with this pediatric nursing with the practice gap, is the ask here, or the concern is that there's not enough pediatric hours for the student? Is it
wrong agenda item, Alice? Yeah,
I'm sorry, Alice, we're on 7.0.
Yeah.
Oh, 7 points. Okay. Sorry.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, I'm going to open it up for public comment. Again, feel free. I don't see anybody else hand up, so I'm going to open it up for public comment. So Mark, can you open it up for public comment, please?
We will be opening for public comment now. Please refer to the screen share for members of the public to see how they should type in their request for comment. I've activated the question and answer feature, Slido. Members of the public can indicate that they would like to make a comment by typing into the question box, "I would like to make a comment." Please remember you will have 2 minutes to make your comments. I would like to give a reminder as your time approaches. I do not want to interrupt you nor cause you to lose your train of thought. I will mute your microphone and inform you that your time has expired, and we'll move on to the next member of the public. I'll pause for a moment for members of the public to type in, I would like to make a comment. Jean Doherty would like to make a comment. 1 second, please.
Hello, thank you for taking my comment. My name is Jean Doherty. I'm a nursing professional development specialist at Children's Los Angeles. I'm on the collaborative partnerships team here and work closely when it comes to nursing students. And my comment is just in regards to any kind of vacancies that are upcoming on NEWAC. I am very much interested in joining NEWAC. I think I would love to either, I hear the Clinical Impaction Committee has a vacancy, but I also heard there were some vacancies upcoming. So my comment is more a question around how would I go about expressing that interest? Will there be a call out on the website for me to fill out? I just wanted to kind of hear how I would go about expressing interest in joining NEWAC.
Yeah, we will do a call out as those terms get closer to ending. It will go out as an email to all RNs on our listserv, as well as it will be posted to our website. So look closer towards the May date of 2026, and we will be recruiting for all of those positions to be filled.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your comment. Committee Chair Chan, there are no other public requests for comments on the WebEx. We have no in-person representation in BRN HQ. Would you like me to close this window?
Yes, thank you, BRN moderator. I'm gonna do a roll call vote. Garrett Chan, yes. Janine Graves?
Yes.
Thank you, Janine. Tanya Altman?
Yes.
Thank you, Tanya. Tammy Bentel?
Yes.
Thank you, Tammy. Cherie Fortin?
Yes.
Thank you, Cherie. Wendy Hansbrough?
Yes.
Thank you, Wendy. Saji de Guzman?
Yes.
Thank you, Saji. Alice Benjamin?
Yes.
Thank you, Alice. Hazel Torres?
Yes.
Thank you, Hazel. Judy Cornell?
Yes.
Thank you, Judy. Kathy Hughes?
Yes.
Thank you, Kathy. Jacqueline Bowman is still not with us. Carmen Comsty?
Yes.
Thank you, Carmen. Chris Perry is not us. Joanne Spetz?
Yes.
Thank you, Joanne. And Sandra Miller?
Yes.
Great, thank you, Sandra. Excellent. All right, we're going to move to agenda item 8.0, which is discussion and possible action, which is report from the 7 NEWAC subcommittees: simulation standards, clinical placement and impaction, cultural competency diversity, and pathways to nursing, theory practice gap and new grad orientation, workforce retention, curriculum standards and guidelines, and faculty. And faculty, yes. So I'm going to start with the simulation standards. As people may recall, Sandra Miller and I did a very extensive statewide engagement with people interested in simulation, as well as simulation experts in nursing education, to talk about simulation standards. Came before this committee the recommendation to create regulations, and we had drafted some draft regulations, of course, to be appropriately vetted through the appropriate channels. That went forward up to through the Nursing Practice Committee, which is the committee that sits above us. It passed out of Nursing Practice Committee. It went to the full board. The full board voted to engage in the process. And I think that is all the information that I have. Lori, do you have anything else, updates on this?
Just some clarification, the board did vote to pursue the writing of regulations for simulation standards. When a board votes to accept simulation standards, there's not a lot that can be done unless you put it into law. So that is done either through the regulatory process or the legislative, which ends up being the statutory process. There are multiple pathways being considered this time just because we have sunset coming up. And so with our sunset bill coming up that we hope to have introduced in January, February next year, that simulation standards may end up going the legislative route instead of the regulatory route, depending on how that moves through. We do have that listed on our items that we will be including in our report that we submit to the legislators in January. Again, if that is something that is not picked up legislatively, we will be writing regulations on that. We did receive the draft regulations that were written. It is not simple lift and shift of that because we did receive a lot of feedback on whether or not all of our pre-licensure nursing programs would be able to comply with the specificities of the regulations that were submitted. In additional conversation around that, if that becomes a licensing requirement and not necessarily a graduation requirement. So if that becomes a licensing requirement, that licensing requirement stands for all out-of-state nurses that are educated as well as all international nurses that are educated in order for them to be licensed in the state of California. So it could affect reciprocity. So with that information, our staff is aware of that regulation. We are looking at different types of language to have that have the least amount of impact to our endorsing RNs and be able to take into consideration some of our colleges and universities that may not be able to fully implement all of those recommendations. And so with that, we are open-minded going into the sunset process as well as continuing to move it towards the regulatory process so that we can get to we can get our board's ask, which would be to have the acceptance of the simulation standards put into some kind of legal language, whether it be regulatory or statutory in our Nurse Practice Act.
Thank you so much, Lori, and I fully support that process that you're going to continue to go through. The one thing that I would add that I think is important for the record is that we heard about the psychological harms that students suffered as a result of poorly done simulation. And so, while there are, these are standards to protect the public, and the public in this case would be nursing students, while it might be difficult for programs to, address, that's the intent, is to make sure that simulation is psychologically safe and non-traumatic. And so I just would encourage the Board of Registered Nursing to keep that as top of mind, because this really is about public safety. And I agree that it shouldn't be part of the licensing requirement. I think that's a very good call out, and you have brought that forward many times, which is incredibly thoughtful of you, and I'm fully supportive of that. I'm just going to ask everybody involved in the deliberation, however way it rolls out, and I will defer to you how it will roll out, that we need to make sure that psychological safety is first and foremost. So thank you. Okay, so moving to the second, what we'll do is we'll have every group do a brief report out, and then we will open it up for public comment. And if there's any kind of action, we'll discuss it at that point in time. So I'm going to move to clinical placement and impaction. Judy, I'm pleased to join you on the subcommittee, but I don't have anything. Do you have anything you would like to add on clinical placement and impaction?
No, I don't have anything specific from the subcommittee. I think that everybody's trying to make sure that they're being compliant with AB 1577, and that would be my only comment.
So AB 1577 is not implemented as of yet. It is a bill that is there. We are in conversations with HCI, but HCI is the one that will be doing the data collection. BRN has a very minor role in that, but we do have a dashboard that we have rolled out to our nursing program directors. It's in its infancy. We are getting a lot of feedback from our program directors on updates and adjustments that need to happen with that. We are hoping that we will be able to leverage the CFA's, the Clinical Facilities Approval Dashboard, and partner with HCI to allow that to be a single reporting and kind of morph that. So there are conversations with that. The CFA is something that is being considered to answer AB 1577. And I'm sorry, I totally went off complete track on that one. We're hoping that with that, but the other thing, and I believe, sorry, as I'm resetting, because I got off on a tangent there, AB 1577 was the priority placement. Is that the correct one? I just received a message saying that.
Yes,
that
that's right.
Sorry, thank you. So AB 1577 with BRN, that's a no change for us. We've always worked with any of the healthcare facilities. We've always worked with anybody trying to get placements. And so because we are only brought in to kind of assist with that at a later date, there's nothing that is sitting with BRN to implement that. I apologize. I was talking about the data bill. Totally,
No problem.
Totally missed that one.
Not a problem. There's so many things to remember. Thank you for remembering as many as you do. Judy, is there anything else that you wanted to add before we move on to the next?
No, thank you for the additional information. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. The next is the Cultural Competency Diversity Pathways to Nursing. And this group is headed by Jacqueline Bowman and Jennifer Schuma. So, and Cherie, I don't know if you have been fully briefed on this, because you're replacing Jennifer, and Jacqueline Bowman is not here today.
Yes, I have no update. I'm sorry.
Nope, please don't apologize. Again, this is your first meeting, and it takes a while for people to get their feet underneath them. So we're just happy you're here. So I'm going to defer that particular subcommittee and move to the next, which is the theory practice gap and new grad orientation. And this group is Miss Kathy Hughes and Wendy Hansbrough.
So we do not have a particular report unless Kathy has something to add.
I don't, thanks.
There's a lot of conversation flying around about new grad orientation, and but I don't have anything specific to report right now.
No problem. Thank you so much. The next one is workforce retention, and the workforce retention subcommittee is headed by Hazel Torres and Carmen Comsty, dynamic duo. Anything to add?
Carmen and I have not been able to meet since our last meeting. So at this point, I don't think we have much of an update to provide. Carmen, I hope I didn't speak out of turn.
No, I was going to say that too. So it's the same update from last meeting, which is that we were going to look at the survey questions, which I know that we are in the process of doing right now. So
awesome. Thank you so much, Carmen and Hazel. We again appreciate all of your contributions. I'm going to move to the next subcommittee, which is curriculum standards and guidelines. And that is Janine Graves and Saji de Guzman.
Sajay, do you want to comment on this, or do you want me to comment?
Sorry, I was muted. All right, so for the curriculum standards and guidelines committee, we don't have a current update for this, but I know we discussed before our competency-based education and AI integration in curriculum, but I think we are still working on that and it's in progress. So there's no current update aside from this. Thank you.
Thank you. Janine, is there anything else you wanted to add to what Sanji just said?
No, I mean, it's such a big sea change, as Lori mentioned last time, you change curriculum. But we were, very sensitive to our new nurses coming out, accessing the AI, how it's utilized in the electronic record. Because, in Epic, you can just click on AI and write notes and what have you. And so there's some concern, and I think it's valid that we provide some guardrails and instruction for our new nurses about the appropriate applications of AI in a clinical environment. So,
great, thank you. Excellent, thank you so much, Janine and Sachi. And then the last subcommittee is the faculty subcommittee, Drs. Tanya Altman and Vitami Vantel.
Okay, so we've created a survey. We've been having some back and forth with the BRN on fine-tuning it in language. We did do an update of some language, and we integrated most of what was recommended by the BRN and sent it back with some questions about stuff we weren't too keen on integrating. We sent that back to them August 26th, and we're waiting to hear. Our hope is, at least my hope, I don't know about Tammy, but my hope is that we can announce at the joint conference for all directors of schools of nursing in early October, the launch of that survey so that we can encourage the directors to do it. And we have been approved by the BRN, even though there's more than one NEWAC committee member that will be present, because we're not having a discussion. It's going to be an announcement that it doesn't violate Begley Key.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Tammy. And I really appreciate, I'm sorry, Tanya. Sorry, Tanya. Thank you, Tanya and Tammy, for your hard work on this. And I look forward to seeing the results of the great work that you're doing. Excellent. All right. There is, that's it for the subcommittees. So I'd like to open it up for public comment, please.
We will be opening for public comment now. Please refer to the screen share for members of the public to see how they should type in their request for comment. I've activated the question and answer feature, Slido. Members of the public can indicate they would like to make a comment by typing into the question box, I would like to make a comment. Please remember, you will have 2 minutes to make your comments. I will not give a reminder as your time approaches. I do not want to interrupt you nor cause you to lose your train of thought. I will mute your microphone and inform you that your time has expired, and we'll move on to the next member of the public. I'll pause for a moment for members of the public to type in, I would like to make a comment. Jenny would like to make a comment. 1 second, please.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Okay. So my name is Jenny Hernandez, and I'm a supervising public health nurse with the San Bernardino County Department of Public Health. And I'm also a steward with the Teamsters Local 1932. So in my work, there's been a large advocacy for nurses. And I'd like to point out a couple things for the workforce retention, and I'm not sure if this is the applicable venue for that, but I will just state it. I'm trying to work on employers enforcing more and creating more of a mental health interventions for nurses. I feel like the board also needs to be to know that there's something that's being overlooked when we talk about workforce retention is the PTSD that surrounds some of our nurses and these nurses that tend to leave nursing because of this and the resources that are not there. So we do have the intervention program, but I don't think that the actual causes of why some of these nurses end up in those intervention programs are being addressed. There are some hospitals that are creating lavender teams that could quickly respond to some of these stressful moments on the job for nurses, but I'm just putting that out there for the board to see if there's any possibility of something being created for nurses within the BRN that nurses can use for possible PTSD that could improve workforce retention. Also, that I'd like to add that there's very little to no, especially in this administration, enforcement of safety within the hospitals for nurses. Many of the hospitals, including ours in our county, are not complying with the nurse-patient ratios. So then that's putting additional stress on nurses and the retention in the workforce. There's certain areas like public health that don't have any ratios at all. So that would need to be something that maybe we could look at and see if we can retain nurses there by creating ratios within public health. And then also, I would like to put out there legislation that could possibly move forward as we become more and more short-staffed. That includes the use of the nurse word in legislation to include only human beings and not AI. So as we move forward, that's another work retention issue. And then as a side note, I'm not sure if this is also the venue, I had mentioned revamping and readdressing the word dispensing medications for the scope of practice for nurses. In public health, nurses are being used to prepare medications and dispense large doses of medications, which is actually a bit dangerous for our community when we have pharmacists. So in some of these situations where the employer is working off of minimal funds, they tend to abuse the nurse's scope of practice. And that's it.
Thank you. So I'll jump in really quick and just do some clarification really just quickly on that. Staffing ratios, anything that talks about that is outside of our board's jurisdiction. And that cannot be addressed within our Nurse Practice Act. That does fall under Title 22, and that's through the California Department of Public Health. And so the board has no jurisdiction over staffing ratios or anything pertain to staffing. We strictly limit ourselves to the licensing, enforcement, education, and scope of practice of the RN. And that is what is addressed through our Nurse Practice Act. We do, as you mentioned, have the intervention program. That is something that we do offer. So when mental health is brought up, if that's something that comes to us through legislation, that is something that we could, I could see living within the Nurse Practice Act in some sort of way, because we already do have the intervention program that does address mental health. Typically that is done in a manner that is after issues have occurred. What looks like the kind of need is preventive or preemptive to any disciplinary issues, addressing and supporting of mental health. And so that we don't have current statutory authority on that, so we could not move forward with regulations around that. But if there is a legislative person out there that would author a bill and go through a legislative session that would then allow that to become something with BRN, that is then a possibility for us to take a look at that, but that does require a law change, not a regulatory change. The next one, just to address quickly on the dispensing of drugs, Business Professions Code 2725.1 says, notwithstanding any other provision of law, a registered nurse may dispense drugs or devices upon an order by a licensed physician or surgeon, or an order by a certified nurse midwife, nurse practitioner, or physician assistant. They can. However, then you go into B, of that same subsection, no clinic shall employ an RN to perform dispensing duties exclusively. No registered nurse shall dispense drugs in a pharmacy, keep a pharmacy, open shop or drugstore for retailing of drugs or poisons. No RN shall compound drugs, dispensing of drugs by a registered nurse, except a nurse midwife who functions pursuant to standardized procedure. And it goes on and on. So this is addressed in our law. And you can dispense, but it cannot be your job only to dispense. So if what you're bringing forward to us as part of workforce is something that needs to be clarified on that, because that is in our statute, we could potentially add in a specific regulation around that.
It does need to be clarified. Public health tends to use nursing staff as pharmacists in many, many ways. Hospitals are very clear about where those medications are prepared. And even then, some of the hospitals will have nurses reconstitute IVs for emergency codes. So that kind of falls under compound. So a lot of that needs to be really clarified, because as we get shorter and shorter with nurses, I believe the abuse then starts to happen.
I hear you on that. One of the things, just to kind of clarify again on that, is there's a pharmacy board, and a lot of the pharmacy specific guidelines would fall under them and not necessarily within the BRN. So what I would encourage you to do is reach out directly to me. My contact is loretta.melby@dca.ca.gov. It looks like this is moving more away from workforce specifically, so outside of this agenda item, and into more specific kind of scope of practice issues. And so at that point, I would love to explore more and provide some guidance on that, and be able to have more of a conversation to kind of get a path forward on this. But if you can please reach out to me directly, we can start that conversation. And it may not be with BRN, just to be completely candid with that, because we are only one governmental agency that's a part of many when we're looking at working with nurse practice. And so, but we can have that conversation, and we'll take that offline.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Committee Chair Chan, there are no other public requests for comments on the WebEx. We have no in-person representation in BRN HQ. Would you like me to close this window?
Yes, please. Okay, given that we don't have any possible action, there's no need for a vote. So I'm going to move forward to the next agenda item, which is 9.0, discussion and possible action regarding discussion of the regional projections, potential survey, content, data collection strategies, and potential changes for the 2026 survey of registered nurses. So I am going to, I think, turn this over to Joanne, right?
Yes, but can I make a request that we take a brief bio break?
Yes.
Because this agenda item, I hope that we have concentrated time for feedback, but I'm going to have a hard time taking notes on that unless I get to run down.
Absolutely. So I'm going to.
I second that motion.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'm going to adjourn us until 12:45, and we will resume at 12:45. Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for the bio break, and thank you for reminding me, Joanne. Oh, I completely was engrossed. I think Janine will be a better chair than I.
No, I will not.
Yes. All right.
No, Gary, you are irreplaceable.
Oh, yeah, thank you. That's very kind.
No, everybody knows it too.
Right, you're very sweet to say that. Thank you. Before we get started, Joanne, I'm just going to do a quick roll call to make sure that we have quorum. All right. So, do a quick roll call. So, Garrett Chan is present. Janine Graves?
Present.
Excellent. Dr. Tanya Altman?
I'm back.
Thank you. Dr. Tammy Ventel?
I'm present.
Thank you. Miss Cherie Fortin? I'm sorry, Cherie, did you say present? Maybe I didn't hear her. Cherie? Cherie, can you hear me? Okay, I'm just gonna come back to Cherie. Dr. Wendy Hansbrough? Wendy, are you with us? No, I don't see her. I'll come back to Wendy. Dr. Saji de Guzman?
Present.
Thank you, Saji. Miss Alice Benjamin?
Present.
Thank you, Alice. Dr. Hazel Torres?
I am here.
Thank you, Hazel. Judy Cornell?
Present.
Thank you, Judy. Miss Kathy Hughes?
Here.
Thank you, Kathy. Jacqueline Bowman was not present and is still not present. Miss Carmen Comsty?
Here.
Thank you, Carmen. Chris Perry was not present and is still not present. Dr. Joanne Spetz?
Hi, I'm here.
Okay, great, excellent. And Miss Sandra Miller?
Yes.
Excellent, thank you, Sandra. So we're now going into agenda item 9.0, again, discussion and possible action regarding the regional projections, potential survey content, data collection strategies, and potential changes for the 2026 survey of registered nurses. So Joanne, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Actually, pardon me, I'm just going to interrupt long enough to remind everyone that their cameras need to be on if they're part of the meeting.
Thank you, Anne. I appreciate that. And let me.
And Garrett, I want to say here, this is Wendy.
Okay, great. Thanks, Wendy. I forgot to go back, so thank you, Wendy. I appreciate that. And then just wanting to double check that Wendy and who was the other person? Oh, Cherie. Cherie, are you with us? Not with us, but we have still a quorum. So I think, and we're ready to go. Is that okay? Okay, excellent. Thank you. Again, feel free to interrupt me at any time, but I'm going to turn it over to Joanne.
All right. This agenda item is mostly about the 2026 survey of registered nurses. I asked for some of your time, basically to pick all of your brains as we think about changes to the 2026 survey. The 2024 survey report is getting really close to being done in draft form. And that will, as it usually does, go to staff at the BRN for their review. But there are a couple of places where I put in the materials in the agenda book, there are a couple of places where I put in some tabulations of new questions so we can discuss whether those should remain. To refresh all of your memories, the way we have been traditionally doing this survey is that we select a group of nurses. We select that group It's usually between 8 and 10,000 nurses based on, depending on the budget. And we select those nurses to make sure that we are likely to get at least 500 responses from each of 10 different regions we identify. 9 of those regions, I believe it's 10. All of those regions but one are in California, and then there we add another region for people who have a California license but live out of state. That group we ask about whether they worked in California in the past year, whether they think they're going to move to California, whether they're working as a traveler or doing telehealth for California patients. So that out-of-state group is important to understanding the capacity of nursing services for Californians. We generally begin by doing an email fielding of the survey to everybody for whom we have an email address that is selected to receive the survey. They are reminded multiple times to please complete the survey. I think around 5 or 6 reminder emails. And then after that, we identify the non-responders and send that list to a printer. And then we begin sending paper booklets. While in theory, one might think that we should be able to do this whole thing online and stop doing the paper surveys, it turns out that about half of the respondents still come in on paper. And in thinking about it with this kind of population, I think it actually does make sense because many nurses are not on email all the time at their jobs. They're actually running around taking care of patients, and their contact email might be their home email address, but these are very busy professionals who at home going onto their computer and remembering to click and go do the survey when they also have their finances and their school's paperwork and all of this other stuff that they're dealing with at home. So the paper packets seem to continue to bring in they seem to be pretty essential to maintaining a high response rate. And we assess that every year. So I think at some point, if that share of respondents that are on paper starts dropping too much, then we might contemplate moving to an entire online fielding. So because of the paper printing, and also to be respectful of nurses, we do keep this survey in a 12-page limit. A copy of the questionnaire was included in the packet for you, so you can see overall what it looks like. There's a lot that we ask for, but it is valuable information that is not included in the short survey that HCI does as part of the license renewal process. So it provides a lot of additional information that is much of which I believe is legislatively required for the board to collect. So that's your context. If anybody has any comments about the process of fielding the survey, that would be fantastic. And if not, we'll move on to the questionnaire items.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I think it was last time when this was presented, we asked if this can be done through text messaging. Was there any movement to move for it to be on text messages? Since, I know that most of the nurses are now mobile and they're all using their phones.
So I have 2 thoughts on that. One is that the data requests that we receive from the board does not include the phone number on record. There may be a phone number on record, but we would not know if it is a cellular phone or not. But I think what is more pertinent is that a survey this long generally does not do well from a text messaging strategy. And there's a literature on that, and we also have experience with fielding surveys via text messages. And that tends to work well if it's a very short survey, but it does not work well for a survey of this length.
How about text message for dissemination of the information so they can click the link and then they can do the survey from there?
like I said, for a survey this long, doing it on a cell phone, the literature says that that tends not to be very successful. People drop off mid-survey or early in the survey because of the length, and the formatting is also sometimes relatively challenging, such as the questions around satisfaction that have 5 choices from very satisfied to very dissatisfied. Each of those would be a separate screen on a phone type of application. And so that just the length of time. This is also part of why I think a lot of people just do it on paper, because you literally can sit at a table with a cup of coffee and go through it pretty quickly, compared to doing it in, like a cell phone platform would actually be much slower. A computer platform, you can have more of a tabular format more easily if it's on a computer screen.
So understanding that you don't currently have phone numbers, I mean, even a simple text that says your email on record with the BRN has been sent a survey, please complete it. Just to bring it to their attention might be useful.
Okay. I can communicate with the staff at the board that I work with to see if it's possible to add phone numbers, and if the records indicate whether those are cell phones. I also will have to check the kind of the technical capacity of our survey system and our, whether we can actually implement that. I don't want to send text messages from my personal phone. And I'm not sure that our survey system would allow, we'll structure that. But I can explore that to see if it's possible. Again, based on the literature that I have read, I don't think it's going to give us a lot of yield, but we can look into it.
Yeah. This is Alice. I vaguely remember this, like some FCC rule. Don't people have to opt in to receive those type of surveys on their cell phone? I thought there's some type of like, it falls if they receive it unsolicited on their cell phone, it's kind of like spamming. So they'd have to opt in. Is that what I believe?
There may, I don't know that they have to opt in. It may be that by providing a cell phone number to the board, they're already viewed as opting in, but that is a legal issue that I think we should check with BCA. I know we have done texting before for certain projects, but it's usually been a project where somebody is participating in a program and they understand that as part of their participation, they need to provide data in order to support an evaluation of the program, for example. So that probably constitutes an opt-in type.
I believe it is. And I just know there's been some updates and a lot of that. And that's why they've made all those anti-spam things. And that's why it's so easy for you to, it's easier for you to unsubscribe to things now because of that. So just for consideration.
Yeah.
Joanne, I'm sorry, I'm not finding the raise hand function here. I don't know where it is. But just quickly, can you tell us what your survey program you're using is?
We use the Qualtrics survey platform.
Okay.
It's a pretty powerful platform. It's the same platform we also use for the school survey.
Yeah, I use it all the time for pretty much everything that I survey my students and faculty about. And so, but I think I'm trying to think what the challenge is. I mean, we do all sorts of surveys, perhaps not this long. I mean, every survey I send out, I make it available. They can do it on their phone. And, that is the modern technology, but I do also appreciate complex surveys may not come across very well on your phone. So I do understand that, but we just provide faculty with the link, and then they can access the link or a QR code however they'd like to. If they want to do it on their phone, they can access it using the QR code. But a long survey may not play well on somebody's phone.
Yeah. Well, I think the legal questions of whether the phone numbers can be shared with us and whether whatever privacy and statutory, like kind of in what context can the board use phone numbers? I think we need to navigate that before we even think about the technical issues.
Yeah, you don't need their phone number. If you send a QR code they can choose to access the survey using the QR code. You're not collecting their phone number. You're not sending to their phone number. You're sending to their email address. And the
Well,
link.
we already do that. We already do that.
So it doesn't, this hasn't got anything to do with their phone number. It just is convenience for them for how they want to access the survey.
Right. So the emails that they receive, it doesn't have a QR code. It has just a direct link to the survey. And then the paper surveys also include in the cover letter a link to where they can get to the survey online, and each person is given a unique kind of login so that they uniquely are completing the survey. So even if they don't respond to all our emails, and we changed the email respond to, to say everything from, Board of Registered Nursing survey. And we can't say we are the Board of Registered Nursing, but we can put a lot of things in there to try to get somebody to open the email. And then we do in the paper letters, there is a cover letter that usually comes with Loretta's signature on it. And that has DCA logos and BRN logos and all the fancy stuff. And then that also has a link. So sometimes some people do come that way to the online version, even if they ignored the emails.
So
You
I
might
have
consider.
another question. Sorry. What's the age range of those respondents that we have from the recent one, from the recent survey?
I don't have the weighting data in front of me, but
Okay,
the response rate
I'm
was,
just
can I finish? That we had 10,000 surveys, 40% responded. They cover the full age range. Although we oversample younger nurses because younger nurses are less likely to respond. But
correct
we do include nurses all the way up to as old as they are licensed, they could be included in the survey. We do not cut it off because we know that a lot of nurses are continuing to work in some capacity into their 80s, and there are a few in their 90s that are still working.
right. No, because I asked the age because the workforce is getting younger, and that's why I'm asking. Even though how long they are in the phone, they can still do the surveys, even how long they are. But I'm just talking about the new generation.
Yeah.
For the new generations of nurses.
To jump in and provide some clarification from the board, we collect address of record. That's what our law is around, is address of record. It is not a requirement to collect emails. It's not a requirement to collect phone numbers. We do typically on the Breeze application and renewal have people submit emails and have people submit phone numbers. We do not ask whether it's a cell phone or whether it's a landline. It is simply just a phone number. So we would have no ability to tell the difference with that. With the suggestion that Wendy put forward, which is embedding a QR code into an email, that's absolutely something that can be looked into. Understanding though that the link that goes out in the email, that email can be accessed on your mobile device. I check my email on my mobile device 24/7. That is not, I don't go to a landline computer to do that. In fact, I don't own a personal landline, a personal computer. I only have my laptop, and I have my work provided laptop and my cell phone. So I don't sit down in front of a desktop computer ever. Now, with that said, though, the formatting of the survey is not mobile compatible, right? So that's where Joanne is talking about the length of the survey and having it being accessed on a mobile device is difficult. So could we send text messages? Yes. Could we, potentially, yes, sorry. Are they able to access on a mobile device? Every single person is able to access it on a mobile device if that's where they check their email. So there's nothing that we need to do to alter that process to get that information out. What may be considered to be helpful is sending text message reminders that says, hey, check your email, the survey's still waiting for you. And then they remember to go in and sign into their email. The other thing that could be considered to be looked at, which may or may not be able to be something that UCSF can do via contract with us, is whether or not they can make this survey mobile compatible, right? If they made the survey mobile compatible so that if the person does access it on their mobile device, it is better than viewing the desktop version, that is absolutely something that can be looked at by UCSF that does not involve the BRN in the way that they format that. So we don't need phone numbers. We don't need to tell whether or not they're cell phone or not. We don't need to see if they want to opt in to receive that. This messaging is available for mobile access via their email. The one thing, if that's an ask that is put out by this group, would be for UCSF to explore whether or not the survey could be adapted to be viewable easier on a mobile device versus a desktop device.
Yeah. Yeah, the Qualtrics application will provide the questionnaire in a mobile format, although we may need to make adjustments so that pages are not too long, et cetera. You know, single screens are not too much scrolling. And we can check into reminders from text messages and having that be part of the data we receive. That also might be something we could run as an experiment, meaning, you know, randomly pick half of the sample and send them some text messages and see if their response rate is any different from a half that does not get text message reminders. That would give us some interesting information about the degree to which people are potentially more responsive to having those text reminders. Because we do, and we will, like everyone's have gotten some pushback from our IRB because this is viewed as human subject research since we ask a lot of personal questions. And every once in a while, we've gotten pushback from our IRB about how many times we remind people to do these surveys. So we do want to be judicious and not to use the vernacular. We don't want to piss people off too much. You know, they're being generous with their time to provide this information. So we want to, you know, an experiment could be very useful to tell us what is helpful.
I can make a comment, and I apologize. I don't have a raising hand that's working. But I'm just wondering if we could not, maybe we don't change it for this year's survey, but what we do is it possible to add maybe a couple of questions that would ask them what their preferences would be for future surveys? Because to Sachi's point, the generational changes are real. The quickly advancing technology is real, and if we want good data and we want high response rates, then listening to the voice of that particular consumer may be helpful.
Let's come back to that question when we talk about other additions. Note that the same population is not necessarily surveyed again. Somebody could randomly get it again, but it may, you know, there may be some age, you know, kind of age or education background or job type intersections where a question or two about that could help give us some information. But we need to be really conscious of trying to figure out where that question would go in the survey, because adding that would probably require deleting something else. So then we would need to decide what we're going to delete.
I was going to say, in the paper copies that you send to nurses, you could add a statement that asks, like a fill in the blank at the bottom, if you're choosing to submit this via paper, can you share with us why you opted for that particular modality over electronic interface?
We do have an open-ended question page, and we could add a second open-ended question specifically about that.
So I do want to do a time check really quick, guys. We do have 50 more minutes of our meeting. We have the completion of the question section of this agenda item. And we do have the pediatric clinical questions from CHLA as an additional agenda item. These formatting processes, those are all things that you guys can email me directly and we can work with them. And we can discuss formatting and such offline. It doesn't need the buy-in of the full committee. So we really do want to be able to discuss the questions. So I'm going to ask that we kind of move this section along and get into the question section of this agenda item. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Loretta. So to get to the content.
I'm sorry, I'm just going to step in really quick to remind members to keep their cameras on if they're participating in the meeting.
So we do have one member right now, Saji de Guzman, who is going on and off camera. We do have quorum, but Saji, if you do need to drop off and you are not able to participate in person, let us know and you can exit. If not, and you are able to stay on for the remainder of the 50 minutes, we do ask for that your camera be on.
All right. So, let's see, there is not a lot of room to add questions. So there are a few items here where there are questions about like, should we make this list shorter or should we delete some items, which would make space to potentially add some items. And there may be other changes that we make in consultation with Loretta and board staff that we might not get to discussing today in terms of just thinking about prioritization of different content. Some of the suggested items have come from our team in looking at write-in comments and, and various other things that we're seeing in the data. So I'll just begin at the top of the document I sent you. Question 20 asks about their location of their work. And it was, I believe, suggested by our own staff of would there be potentially any interest about how often people are working remotely if they're in a hybrid role that allows them to be in the office some days and remotely in others. I'm a little on the fence about whether that's worth the real estate, but I figured I'd put it out there. I'll kind of walk through the first page of these and then maybe seek some feedback. We also have in question 35, there is some questions about factors that might affect a nurse's ability to provide high quality patient care or to do their best work. And there are two items in that, one item that says poor leadership from manager/institution. And at least one of the write-in comments raised the point that one could have a fantastic manager, but feel like their institution is led poorly, or conversely might have great institutional leadership, but think their direct manager stinks. So we proposed dividing that into two items because that was a great point, whoever wrote that in. 35G asks about the institutional support of my professional judgment. And that would also then perhaps beget the same division, my manager's support of my professional judgment, and then my institution or organization's support of my professional judgment. So those two, I think actually might be worth taking up the page space to figuring out how to cram that in. And then question 36 was about the organization, statements about the organization with which they work, such as if I did the best job possible, my organization would notice. My organization cares about my well-being. My organization responds to my complaints, etc. And the question was raised of whether we should maintain those questions about their perceptions about their institution or organization that employs them, or whether shifting those to be about their direct manager or supervisor would be valuable. I think the problem with making that switch is that you lose comparability with prior years of data because you changed the content of the questions. And some nurses are the boss. And so if the nurse is the boss, then they can't really answer the questions. So I'll pause there and see what feedback you all have about that little set. If any.
Yeah. Alice, go ahead and jump in. Alice is new and she's doing a hand raise since there's no hand raise function. So if Carmen, if you could just, Allison,
Yeah.
we're pretty informal on the virtual
Okay. Just jump in.
platforms. Just speak.
Yeah. Okay.
Unmute and speak.
Well, I support the continuity of care almost with the question of saying organization. And then also, we don't want to make this about a person. We want it to be about their work environment. So I think sticking with organization is probably the better word to use for number 36. And then for number 35, my just point of clarification, in order to do high quality patient care, if I have policies or procedures that limit what I can do, is that supposed to fall under kind of category G, institutional support? Is that where that would fit? Just want to be clear.
Yes,
Okay.
and I think that's a great example of difference between the organization and the manager.
Okay.
I have a quick question about 20. Is there a particular reason why you use the term from home rather than remotely?
That is a great point. I don't think there was a particular reason we picked that terminology, and well, actually, I think part of the reason we picked that is if you are, say, perhaps a public health nurse, you might be moving from site to site for your work. So saying, hybrid on site and remotely might to some people imply that they are remotely in the field as opposed to working in kind of a non-workplace environment. But we can think about that terminology because they could be at a coffee shop, right?
Well, what's the purpose of the question?
To learn the degree to which people have are in remote jobs that are flexible for themselves. So this got added after we had done a project with the Oregon Health Authority, and one of the things that we kept hearing from employers in rural areas in particular is they felt like they were losing nurses to jobs where the nurses could just work from home and not have to commute anymore. And the growing interest in people in having the flexibility of working remotely, such as in a telehealth job, perhaps is changing people's preferences and patterns of employment vis-a-vis, say, hospitals or working in a clinic or another type of in-person setting that doesn't have that flexibility. So we're trying to get a sense about to what degree that's happening.
As someone who's actually worked remote, I actually do that. There's actually distinguishing features between working at home and then working remotely, because I may work remotely at a different location all the time. So I think that those are actually two different things, because when I'm at home, this is kind of considered my pseudo office space. And the expectation is for me to be at home, be able to come on camera and do those things, where I might work remotely, where I'm actually still doing patient care, but I'm remotely doing it from this location and from that location. So the word remote is used in those situations. So I think they're two different things.
Yeah, and that's thank you for saying that, because that's exactly why we use the at-home terminology, so that somebody in in that kind of a work situation wouldn't say, oh, well, I'm remotely in the field doing XYZ, should I check this box? Right. It really was meant to be like, I'm like my daughter's new job where she literally is working out of her home office.
Right. So my question would be, would someone who's working remotely at different locations, would that still fall under at my employer's site, since I'm my employer, but I'm at this location and now I'm at this location remotely?
That's a great question. We may need to think about adding some clarification on that, at my employer's site or sites assigned by my employer.
Yeah, I think that's clarification.
Yeah, that clarification would be very helpful, because I'm not sure how to interpret this otherwise.
Great, thank you.
To jump in from BRN perspective, I'm not sure that level of detail is necessary, something we want to add to this survey. The reason is when we look at workforce, we look at where the care is being delivered. We look at where the work is being delivered to, not necessarily the location that you provide that at. So if I am located in San Diego, but I work in Sacramento remotely, the work that I'm doing is for Sacramento. It is not necessarily for San Diego, even though I'm remotely doing it in a location in San Diego. Obviously not my job that I'm currently doing now. It's a statewide thing. So just to add that clarification. So when we're focused on workforce, what we really want to kind of know BRN wise is your address of record says that you are licensed as an RN living in LA, but you're actually working as an RN in Ontario, right? So your resources, even though you're licensed in LA, is not going to LA. Your work product is going to Ontario if you're doing like a telehealth or something like that, right? So when you're getting into kind of wanting to look at workforce in general, the location of where you do part of your work and not part of your work may not be as important right now in this survey. If we're looking at employer accommodations and whether or not your employer allows you to have the flexibility to have a home office, or your employer allows you to have the flexibility to log in and work from Starbucks, then that would be something that we would then want to know what type of remote work you're looking at. So I want to make sure that we keep that complete separation kind of done, because when we're looking at workforce and we partner with HCI to do that, HCI will ask for your address of record that comes on our license renewals, and then they will ask if you're working in the county that you are licensed in, your address of record. So
We ask them about their work
Yeah.
location as well.
Yeah, and so what I'm thinking at this point is that might not be a question that we want to add to the survey for this time around. Because if we want to go ahead and get into specifics of those kind of workplace accommodations, essentially, that makes it more appealing, we would really want to flush out maybe a couple questions and not just have one question that we drop in. We want to flush out a couple questions to really get that level of depth that would really be needed for that to be some kind of a benefit to this survey.
Mhm. Yeah, the basic question 20 is in the survey currently. We can look at the data that comes from it and see what the data look like. We also, usually we do a cognitive testing process, which is kind of fancy beta testing. And we could also cognitively test whether people understood the terminology to mean what we intended, which was the flexibility to work in a place of your choosing. Because colloquially, I think for a lot of people, if we say, are you doing hybrid work? People colloquially often know what we mean, but we can do a cognitive testing to make sure that that's true. And we can also share the tabulations with the board and see if it's even worth keeping this question versus dropping it in favor of something else. Let's see.
Carmen,
35, 30.
I think Carmen had.
Yeah, I had a couple of points on 20. I think generally from a different perspective on why we would want to collect information on kind of the remote work aspect. And I know that Joanne, your question specifically was about adding how often they work remotely. Is, you know, from kind of the labor workforce perspective, it's there's a question about whether employers are shifting to telework or remote work and shifting away from direct patient care, which is really concerning for a lot of different reasons, but also kind of to capture the instances where we know that there may be, you know, work sites where there's a number of nurses doing telework, which is trying to capture what is actually happening there. So I think that that's important. And I'm glad that we're kind of talking about these issues, and it really relates a little bit to some of the remote patient monitoring and tele nursing questions that are in other questions. But I know we've talked a lot about that. So that's kind of what I was thinking about question 20. On question 35, I think this question has always kind of like not sat very well with me, because there's some of the questions are about, you know, or some of the sub questions are about a patient's immigration status, or if they are a patient with an SUD, which I think they're framed a little bit in a way that puts it's a little bit confusing. We don't want this data to be used against patients to say that individual patients are interfering with the provision of quality patient care. I think just tweaking those to be more about, if, nurses have the resources, like something about resources related to immigration status or substance use disorder. So I think those are a couple of the things that I kind of have highlighted in those couple of questions. But then to Joanne's specific question about management, individual managers versus institutions, I agree that the distinction is warranted, but considering space, if we had to choose one, institution is probably the better one to choose. I think those are my thoughts on those two questions.
Thank you. And that's a great point around, I mean, yes, it is not entirely ideal that these different disparate items are muddled, kind of in the same stem. That's partly for space because they do all have the same stem, and making them separate, completely separate questions takes more space. I do know the patients with substance use disorders came up as an item to add after having a lot of written in comments about that as a growing issue over the past decade. And so that is one where I am pretty sure that the percentage saying that it is affecting their ability to provide high quality care is probably going to pop up again. We'll take a look at the immigration data, the immigration one, and we'll think about if there's a way to separate that out and frame those differently, right? To what degree do these, do these issues affect the quality of care that or kind of think about the right framing, because it really is to some degree, there are logistical complications that come, for example, patients with substance use disorders, you need to be differently attentive possibly with who is visiting the patient and so on. And with immigration status, there may also be concerns that are happening in some workplaces about ICE showing up and how that may affect their organization's ability to provide care. So we'll see what the data are showing from 2024, and we'll have to think about how, what to do with those.
Yeah, I think, just to be a little bit clear about, my concern about the immigration status and the SED portions are that, particularly with immigration status, I don't want the results of this survey being used to say that X percentage of nurses have issues with patients that have related to patients' immigration status because of the issues related to ICE that are happening right now.
Right.
So I don't want the data to be weaponized against patients that are undocumented, to be pretty blunt about it.
Gotcha.
Joanne, I'm sorry. I'm just going to do a time check. I'd like to spend 10 more minutes on this because we do have one more
all right, then we're going to move
agenda
on
item.
And
Okay.
I am happy to take whatever is the official protocol. I'm happy to take emails directly with comments, or if the protocol should be that those should go through Macaulay,
Yes,
which I
please.
think I'm seeing
All
Loretta
comments
nodding her
to
head.
Macaulay. Yes.
So if you have comments for things that we don't get to today, send them to Macaulay, and she will ensure that I get them, so that as we're doing the revisions, we can work on that. And then also that if you send them to Macaulay, then also Loretta will see them and the other board staff can see them. Question 41 was new this year, or in 2024. It was a new item that was related to experiences with discrimination. I believe that these items largely came from previously existing scales that have been used in the literature. And we put the tabulations here so that we could think about whether we should retain all of these items, because this does take up about half a page or a third of a page. It takes up more than a third of a page. And also, some of them are kind of depressing, so I figured you may as well be depressed with me. So the least common were, fortunately, supervisors making slurs or jokes related to race, ethnicity, gender, or sexual identity. I'm still annoyed that it's more than 2% say that their bosses are doing that, but at least it's only 2%.
Was religion left out of that question on purpose? Or
Is what?
Religion. Should religion be included in that question? As far as
Let's see. I believe that the scale that we drew from did not include religion as a category, but it certainly could be added if we retain all of these items. I'm just making a note.
I have just a comment about the question about the supervisor making slurs or jokes. I would agree that's a disturbing number. I wonder, I mean, I guess this is workforce survey. So we're looking at the workforce environment. So we're really not specifying whether this is their nursing supervisor or maybe this is, the supervisor of, I don't know, some other department that they overhear, that they work with, or so we really are looking at the workplace, correct? The work environment.
The question says your supervisor. So maybe they respond about a supervisor in a different unit, but it does ask specifically your supervisor.
Okay.
I think the main question here is, should we retain all of these items, or at this juncture, and looking at these data, I totally think we could justify, like maybe these are all worth keeping, but are there items that perhaps we feel like, to save a little bit of space and add other things that there are a few here that we might drop, mostly because it's new. I wanted you all to look at it.
Hi,
This
is Hazel.
This is Kathy Hughes. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Hazel.
Sorry, just a couple of questions that might not necessarily be towards a discrimination lens. So 41C, how often are you watched more closely than others? If this were a new grad, if this were somebody who is on an action plan, they might, it's not discriminatory, it's just what's necessary. I'm just
it's
thinking,
fairly based on an action plan, right? I think the perception is important, because if I was based on an action plan, because of this, I feel like my behaviors have been watched more closely. I'm being picked on. It could stand to still be a relevant question.
We can,
yeah,
we
the
can
way
also
the
cross
way it's
tab it.
being asked. Oh, go ahead.
We're certainly, I don't think it would be appropriate for us to ask respondents if they're on a PIP, but we can cross tab against, how many years since graduation they are. And, that we can cross tab any of these things against anything. So I just made a note to cross tab against new grad, because that may be something we add to the report. Like, a big share of the people who said, yes, this is happening a lot, actually turn out to be new graduates, which would then be appropriate. And we would interpret the data, we'd interpret it differently. So it's a great point.
And then the other question, it's how often do others assume that you work in a lower status job than you do, and treat you as such? I'm not sure that that's clear. That's almost making me think of, what did the other person think about you? We're thinking about some of these questions that we could drop. Those are the two that I thought that they might be a little too ambiguous to really hold space. Just an opinion.
Yeah, I have to agree with your thoughts around that question. And the only reason I say that is because it's just so non-specific. You know, it doesn't really, I mean, unless you work in a place where all the RNs wear this color and all the radiology techs wear that color and that kind of thing. I mean, I was recently hospitalized and I didn't know what the role of anybody who walked in my room was unless they told me what their role was. So I just not sure that question is value added.
Okay, great. I'm going to move us on because we're running out of time.
Just a couple of quick questions. I do agree with the comment that was made about adding religion.
I've made a note.
Slurs, because I think that's important, especially in our times. The other one that I was looking at was maybe from a union perspective, and so I apologize because there's only a couple of us on here about that, but like whistleblowers are facing retaliation if you bring up a concern with your supervisor and then you feel like you're being retaliated against or targeted, or you stand up for the staffing ratios or some other kind of thing where you're facing some kind of retaliation based on, again, the things that I mentioned. Because I just wonder, I mean, it's not really discrimination in the traditional sense, but I do think that I have nurses that say, I'm being targeted because I've brought up concerns or done things like that. Thanks.
I'm making a note. Thank you.
And if I can just also mention, I think that I really like all of the various questions on discrimination, but I think some of them could be combined so that you don't have as many lines, if you will.
We can check into that. It is very challenging with surveys if you combine things. People call that a double-barreled question, and it can actually make it more difficult for people to respond because similar to that manager/organization one we talked about above, one could be good, one could be bad, then you don't know how to respond. So we can take a look at that and see if any would fit together, but often it's more efficient to drop one in those cases.
Joanne, if these are questions that we've already asked in the past, I would recommend that we probably keep them, especially since ANA California just released their racism in nursing assessment tool. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but they've just released it. So it might be helpful to get, since we've collected this data, see where it lands now, and then maybe even do some comparison with their report and their recommendations. Just even if we just do it one more time.
All right, we will confer with the board.
Reminder that we're 1 minute on the imposed time limit that Garrett put out there. So just keep that in mind. I know that there's more.
So I'm going to confer with the board about question 52 because what we need to save space on will be very dependent on what we add. It has been suggested a few times, we didn't do it this past year, about adding a couple questions about student debt. And so our proposal for if we add something on that would be how much debt they had when they finished their most recent education program, and then how much debt they have today. Because people who graduated 15 years ago maybe remember what that number was, but they might have paid it all off. And I think a couple of years ago, resilience had been suggested. So I've got an item there that we can discuss with the board and see on space. But I think the last batch of stuff, which you're going to have to respond to me or respond to Macaulay, is related to artificial intelligence in nursing. This has come up as being an area of a lot of growing use and potential concern. And what I have put in here is a whole series of, I'm just going to orient you so that you can send comments and then Garrett can move on with the agenda. There are various scales and previously used questionnaires that I have put into this document that range from everything about do you even really know what AI is? Because I think if we use that terminology, people have different conceptualizations about what that might be. So we can't assume that everybody, some people think it's only ChatGPT as opposed to a large data model with, that's doing predictive modeling. So there are some questions related to that, some questions related to whether their organization has kind of an AI related code of ethics or guidelines about its use, specific types of AI that they might use with detail about exactly what those types are so that people could check boxes about what they think they're using, their degree of comfort with AI in the clinical setting, training that they have received and training that they may think they need. There is, let's see, there was also kind of barriers and facilitators to using it. And then the last batch of questions you'll see are from a Canadian survey of nurses that was entirely about AI, that I think has some advantages because it was about nurses and not kind of generic surveys that have been done of health professionals broadly. However, that Canadian survey has too many questions. We don't have enough space to add all of that. So your input about the domains that would be most interesting to ask about and what you're seeing in your workplaces, or you're hearing from your colleagues, or you're hearing from union members or your students about domains that would be the most interesting to ask about, would be very helpful to narrow this down. And then that'll help drive the conversation we have with board staff about what we're going to trim from the survey to make space for this.
Thank you, Joanne. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to interrupt.
All right.
We do have to open up for public comment. As we're doing that, BRN moderator, please get that queued up. And then if there is any public comment, I want to remind everybody that the BRN does have an email address that's dedicated to NEWAC, and it's brn.newac@dca.ca.gov. Again, brn.newac@dca.ca.gov. And if anybody has any public comments, we welcome your written comments there too. So Mark, go ahead and take it away.
We will be opening for public comment now. Please refer to the screen share for members of the public to see how they should type in the request for comment. I've activated the question and answer feature. Members of the public can indicate that they would like to make a comment by typing into the question box, "I would like to make a comment." Please remember you have 2 minutes to make your comments. I will not give a reminder as your time approaches. I do not want to interrupt you nor cause you to lose your train of thought. I will mute your microphone and inform you that your time has expired, and we'll move on to the next member of the public. I'll pause for a moment for members of the public to type in, "I would like to make a comment." Committee Chair Chan, there are no public requests for comments on the WebEx. We have no in-person representation in BRN HQ. Would you like me to close this window?
Yes, thank you so much. All right.
Garrett, can I just ask people, please send comments to me by the 17th so that we have enough time to do a draft revision to get board staff feedback and stay on our timeline.
Perfect, thank you. Please send all comments to the BRN by September 17th, 2025. Awesome, thank you so much, Joanne. Thank you for doing the heavy lifting on this really important work. All right, next is agenda item 10.0, discussion and possible action of various concerns and recommendations outlined in a letter received by Children's Hospital of Los Angeles. I'm going to ask the board moderator to please elevate Jean Darty from CHLA, as she is representing CHLA today. So we can go ahead and move forward. So welcome, Ms. Doherty, to NEWAC, and I just wanted to give you a few minutes to kind of set the stage for this agenda item.
Awesome, thank you. And I'm also joined with Jenny Baird, our Associate Chief Nurse Officer, and I'll let her kind of kick us off.
Hi, thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate the opportunity to communicate with you. Appreciate your review of our letter and the comments that we received back. Just to sort of summarize, we really are eager and needing to rethink how we are training our workforce and getting our workforce in the door to help support the care of the children and families that we take care of at CHLA. And we've had increasing challenge with that in terms of the preparation of the students who are coming to us as new graduate nurses and the impaction that we're feeling as we're attempting to support as many schools in the Southern California community as we can. But we've realized we need to sort of have a different strategy for that. And so have begun working with schools in our area to think through how we can do things differently so that we are preparing the students more robustly to enter our workforce and to streamline the transition to practice support that they need, which in this current environment that we're in, of course, has a financial imperative for us, but also from the quality and safety of care that we're providing to these pediatric and adolescent patients and their families. I think we appreciated a lot of the comments that we received back. We did have some particular points that we wanted to kind of seek further clarification on, so I'll turn it over to Jane to talk through those.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Jenny. So yeah, as she was saying, we are kind of wanting to innovate and change, right, the way that we are training new graduate nurses, specifically in the realm of pediatrics, because we are seeing that the current state of things is just not quite capturing the incredible complexity of what it is that we do. And some of the ways we have been trying to do this is partnering with some of our schools locally here in LA County to kind of come alongside them and try to partner with them in kind of changing the way that we teach pediatrics. My role, I'm very lucky to be in this role. I have an academic background that I am now on the practice side of things, you know, so I get to blend the two worlds together, which is a really great and innovative role. But in some of these discussions that we've had with the schools and kind of saying, hey, here's our ideas, here's the impact we're seeing, here's some solutions that we have, we are kind of met with some hesitancy or resistance from schools in the idea that from the school's point of view, the BRN has a generalist focus. And so the idea of creating more specialty focused areas, as in, you know, expanding the pediatric exposure would not really align with what BRN kind of guidelines say. And so one of the kind of things we wanted to discuss and kind of clarify is kind of where, from the BRN standpoint, like where does that lie, right? Like, can there be pathways developed that would be a more pediatric focused if, of course, following the 500 hours, hitting those minimums, right, that are required in all specialty areas. But you know, one of these roadblocks I think that we're hitting is just this hesitancy around that from the schools. And so that is kind of the key piece I think we really wanted to discuss with the committee today, is kind of how do we move forward from that like hesitancy piece.
Thank you. So I am Loretta Melby, or Lori. I'm the board's executive officer. And so I was the one that drafted these responses to you, and I'll be happy to provide any additional clarification. The board sets minimum standards only. Every school within the state of California can create their curriculum in any way that they choose to create it, as long as it meets the minimums. So our minimum is that they have 864 hours of clinical lab experience. Of that 864 hours of clinical lab experience, 500 of those hours must be in direct patient care. We did set a minimum of 30 for each one of the content areas, strictly because if they were to offer a 1 unit, that 1 unit is only 48 hours. If they choose to do a psych clinical, that's only 1 unit, it's 48 hours. if they were to do 50%, which is what the ask was, that came to us repeatedly, is that they wanted to do 50% sim, 50% sim. That would mean that they would have 2 12-hour shifts in an entire semester in a single course, and that would be their preparation. So meeting with various stakeholders, we all landed at a 30-unit minimum. That does not mean a 30-unit maximum, okay? So if it is a 1 unit, if that school chooses a 1-unit clinical, they can do all 48 hours in direct patient care. They can do only 30 in direct patient care. It is completely up to that school on how they want to implement that. That school could also say, I think pediatrics is incredibly important, and I want to do 8 units of pediatric clinical. And then they would take the remaining 10 units and divide it against the other specialty areas, but they can choose that. If the example that I have in here is a 5-unit clinical, if they chose to do a 5-unit pediatric clinical, that is 240 hours dedicated directly to the preparation of a nurse that would go into pediatrics. So if they chose to do a more pediatric based track, that is something that they could do. We have several schools throughout the state that do specific tracks. They do accelerated track, traditional tracks. They do an LVN track. They do a paramedic track. So if our schools in this state chose to do a pediatric track, that would be 100% supported within our current regulations. Nothing would need to be changed. They would still have to meet the 18-unit requirement. They would still have to touch on all of them and prepare them to pass the NCLEX. But they would be able to develop their curriculum in any way they chose to do and make it heavier in a pediatric clinical preparation. Additionally, if they did not choose that and say they already have it developed where they typically we see like 3 units in med-surg, on 1, 2, and 3, right? So that takes up the 9 units. We do see about 3 units in Jerry, and that goes to 11. And then we see psych, OB, and peds kind of taking a lesser load, depending on what their clinical availability is. Really, that's a lot of times what directs that. If you choose to do different numbers of units in that, that is completely up to them. That is not directed by us. So if they want a 5-unit, if they want a 2-unit, if they want a 1 unit, they submit it to us, we review it, we approve it. But they do have to meet the minimum 30. Any of those hours, so say you have a 3-unit course, that's 144 clinical hours. If they want to do all 144 of those hours in direct patient care, they can. If they want to do 72 of those hours in direct patient care, they can. That is what evidence supports at 50%, 1-to-1, right? But at that point, we only require that they meet the minimum 30. We leave that flexibility up to all of the program directors to do what fits their program best and what fits their student population best. So we also do not tell them where to do clinicals at, right? So if they want to do it in a clinic, by all means, do it in a clinic. If they want to do it in an acute care hospital, by all means, do it in an acute care hospital. If they have some idea that we have never thought of before in the entire universe and they bring it to us, what we review it is, does this meet your clinical objective? If they're able to prove to us that it meets their clinical objectives, it gets approved. If it doesn't meet their clinical objectives, there's a conversation that happens that says, are you going to revise your clinical objectives? Or the conversation is, we need to look at a different clinical place that meets the clinical objectives, or tell us how this particular location is going to meet that clinical objectives that we can't readily see. And if we come to an agreement on that, perfect. And then the last conversation that we have them in is, how can you assure that every other student that may not be going to that clinical is comparably prepared? Right? What we don't want to see is any kind of prioritization or specialization of a type of student or a student, right? So if you have a group of 10 that get to go to CHLA and you have a group of 10 students that go to a daycare, how can we ensure that they're both equally prepared, right? And so that's where they have to say, we'll make that up in simulation. we'll make that up in that, because we know that simulation is highly effective, and we know that a lot of times it gives really good clinical experiences. It doesn't replace direct patient care, but it definitely goes side by side. And then the question that you had earlier about in public comment, I believe you came in and asked about the concurrency requirement. Was that you, or was that some other public commenter?
No, that was a different public
That was a
comment.
different one. Okay. And then I can address that once we finish this. So did I answer your questions? Because a lot of these questions that came through, we're really working hard with our academic institutions to let them know that they have the flexibility that they've been begging for. A lot of times it just is whether or not getting that education out to them and seeing how they can do this in a manner that suits their needs, that they just have to basically submit to us what they want and why. And if it meets our minimum requirements, they're going to do whatever they want over and above that.
Yeah, no, and thank you so much for this clarification, because yeah, I think this was really helpful, because we've, like I mentioned, had some hesitancy, but I think it was just maybe, the school's not understanding that they've got that flexibility. And so one thing I also just wanted to clarify on what you spoke about was the prioritization of certain students, or the kind of elevation of certain students. Because like that piece specifically, I just want to touch on, because I think what we're looking at doing is specifically finding the students that have a vested interest. As mentioned in our letter, those students that are dedicated, we want to build, tracks for them. So, but that would create specialization.
That would be a track. So that would not be student specific, it would be a track. And people would be admitted into that track by their choice. They would not be singled out or excluded, right? And so that's what we don't want them going into their traditional program and then having administration or somebody select them and not select somebody else, right?
Got it.
So what we want to is, if there's a specific track that is designed, like we have a paramedic to RN track, right?
Yes.
You're a paramedic, you're going to get into that track. It's not going to be offered to a general student, right? So if you are a peds tech, you work in the peds ED, or you in another country was a pediatric doctor and you've now moved to California and you want to go into peds, but you're not recognized as a doctor here and you want to become a nurse, you could seek out this school that offers a pediatric specialty track. If they have that developed, they would apply to be admitted into that one, so everybody in that track would have a comparable experience. It would not be relative to the generalist track, right?
Okay.
So it's not that, hopefully that was able to clear up that kind of nuance. It's everybody in this pediatric would get comparable pediatric experience, if that makes sense.
Right, and that's how then it's not kind of the prioritization or favoring certain students, it's they are two separate tracks.
They would be accepted into that track.
And a pediatric track. Okay. Yes.
More specifically.
I apologize for interrupting, but we seem to have lost member Hughes a while back.
She is still showing on my screen as here, Kathy Hughes.
Right
but
here.
She is dark. Your camera is off, Kathy.
Oh, it's showing that my camera's on.
Okay. It's
Let me
a black
turn
box
it
for
off
us.
and turn it on again. Did that work?
Today is not a good day for cameras, clearly.
You are.
Oh,
here,
because it's
Kathy. I
telling
can
me
see
the
you now.
camera was on. Are we good now?
You're good. Yep.
Sorry, I'm right
I
here.
can see you.
My apologies.
Thank you. No problem. It is 2:00, so I do want to make sure that we get to your comment. If members are able to stay so we can maintain a quorum, I would love to go out to public comment or answer any other questions. But I just want to make sure I've answered your questions from CHLA.
Yes. Thank you for your time. We really appreciate
So
this.
then I'll take a brief second here real quick to answer the public comment about concurrent. We look at every curriculum that comes in outside of California. So if they apply, they give us their transcripts. Sometimes we'll have additional questions. If it's a school that's not been previously looked at us, there is forms to fill out. They submit catalogs, etc. The concurrent requirement is that they schedule theory and clinical together in the same semester or quarter. If within that same semester or quarter, it's a 16-week semester, and the first 8 weeks is theory and the next 8 weeks is clinical, that's still considered concurrent. The other provision that was added in there is that, say you do your 16-week semester, you have desperately tried to get in all of your clinical hours in there. They were scheduled, but you completed the theory, you completed all your direct patient care clinical hours, or you're not able to complete your direct patient care clinical hours. The requirement is still that you complete your simulated hours in the same semester as your theory. Any direct patient care hours that you were not able to complete in that semester can be rolled into the next semester and made up. So that is a flexibility that was offered through the last sunset bill. The same with those 500 hours. There was a ton of flexibility curriculum development wise that was put into the last sunset. So again, potentially academic institutions are not aware of that or need some additional clarification. Please reach out. I'm willing to have conversations and let you guys know exactly what those flexibilities are. But as long as they're scheduled in the same semester and you've offered and completed all your simulation lab, if you were not able to complete your direct patient care hours of that, you are able to move that to the immediate next semester and complete that. And we would still allow you to come in as concurrent. What we don't allow is you to take the spring semester pediatrics theory and then do a fall semester clinical in peds. That is not something that is currently supported, but they want it to be done in the same semester or quarter. So hopefully that answers it. Any questions from the committee before we go out to public comment?
You know, Lori, I'd like to go to public comment first. So can you, board moderator, can you please open it for public comment?
We will be opening for public comment now. Please refer to the screen share for members of the public to see how they should type in their request for comment. I've activated the question and answer feature. Members of the public can indicate that they would like to make a comment by typing into the question box, "I would like to make a comment." Please remember you will have 2 minutes to make your comments. I will not give a reminder as your time approaches. I do not want to interrupt you nor cause you to lose your train of thought. I will mute your microphone and inform me that your time has expired, and we'll move on to the next member of the public. I'll pause for a moment for members of the public to type in, "I would like to make a comment." Committee Chair Chan, there are no public requests for comments on the WebEx. We have no in-person representation in BRN HQ. Would you like me to close this window?
Yes, thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
I'd like to wrap up with any comments from the committee, please.
Thank you, Garrett, for being a great chair.
Oh, thank you. That's very kind, and it's off topic, so we can't discuss that. Seeing none, I just want to thank our colleagues, Dr. Jenny Baird and Jean Doherty, CHLA, to bring this forward. And it sounds like there are many opportunities for further clarification. I very much appreciate, Lori, your great explanations and the document that you created for the public. This is an important concept, and I think that you know, now more than ever, we need to figure out innovative ways of helping people transition into practice. And if we can get them sooner, like through the mechanisms that you said, Lori, then it decreases their transition to practice or residency time because they're getting a lot more in the pre-licensure education. So I very much appreciate the BRN's flexibility and thinking creatively around how to make this happen. that meets all of the legal requirements and also helps address a societal need for highly qualified and educated nurses in the community. So with that, again, I want to thank our friends from CHLA. I also want to thank Ann Salisbury, who I missed greatly and I'm happy to see again. This ends my tenure as the chair of NEWAC. Thank you so much for your support and your engagement and being an amazing committee. It's been phenomenal and a professional honor for me. So I wish everybody the best for the rest of the year, and we will see you all in January. Thank you so much. I adjourn the meeting.
Thanks, Garrett.